Imagine it's a crisp October morning in Paris, 2025. You're sipping your café au lait under the shadow of Notre Dame, rebuilt and gleaming after the fire. But as you glance across the Seine, the call to prayer echoes faintly from a nearby banlieue. Not from a minaret, but from a smartphone app on a young man's dash to work. The Eiffel Tower stands defiant, yet the streets buzz with a subtle shift. Halal butchers outnumbering boulangeries in some arrondissements, women in hijabs debating philosophy at the Sorbonne, and politicians whispering about parallel societies that feel less like fiction and more like the new normal. Is this the dawn of a quiet conquest, or just France's latest identity crisis? Welcome to Death of Nations, where we peel back the layers of crumbling cultures without the sugarcoating. Today, we expose the uncomfortable truth. With Muslims now at 9% of France's population and climbing, is Islam not just arriving, but reshaping the republic from within? Stick around, because by the end, you'll question if the real invasion is happening in the streets or in the silence around them. France has long prided itself as the cradle of secularism, laicite etched into its DNA since the revolution. But in 2025, that fortress feels besieged. Official estimates put the Muslim population at around 6.7 million, roughly 9% of the country's 68 million residents, up from 5 to 6% a decade ago. That's not a trickle. It's a tide swelled by waves of immigration from North Africa and the Middle East, higher birth rates among Muslim families, averaging 2.6 children per woman versus 1.6 for non-Muslims, and a stubborn resistance to full assimilation. Projections from Pew Research paint an even starker picture. By 2050, under median migration scenarios, Muslims could reach 12.7% of France's population, or as high as 18% if borders stay porous. Zero migration? Still 10.3%. These aren't wild guesses. They're based on current trends, and in a nation where demographics dictate destiny, they raise a chilling question. If Islam isn't conquering today, what happens when tomorrow's voters, many of them second-generation immigrants, tip the scales? The roots run deep, tangled in France's colonial past. From the 1950s to the 1970s, waves of Algerians, Moroccans, and Tunisians arrived as guest workers to fuel the post-war boom, building the cars and cleaning the streets of a rebuilding republic. By the 1980s, family reunification swelled numbers, and the 1990s oil crisis in the Gulf pushed more northward. Fast forward to 2025. The Syrian civil war, Afghanistan's Taliban resurgence, and sub-Saharan conflicts have added over 100,000 asylum seekers annually, with France approving around 30%. That's tens of thousands embedding into the social fabric each year. Recent events? The 2024 migrant surge across the Channel and Mediterranean hit France hard, with Calais camps swelling, 2,000 residents by summer, many Muslim families fleeing Libya's chaos or Eritrea's draft. Politically, Macron's government responded with Operation Azza in early 2025, a €1 billion push for border tech and deportation flights. But critics call a band-aid on a hemorrhage. Le Pen's national rally capitalized, winning 35% in the June parliamentary snap elections on an anti-immigration platform, vowing France for the French. Yet, as one analyst quipped, with just a touch of dark humor, building walls won't stop the strollers crossing borders. But is this influx an invasion, or simply the messy math of globalization? Let's zoom in on the numbers that keep politicians up at night. In Île-de-France, the Paris region, Muslims make up 15 to 20% of the under 18 population. Kids born here, speaking flawless French, but raised in homes where Mugger traditions linger like incense. Schools in Saint-Denis, the infamous 93 banlieue, report 7% Muslim students in some classes, where Ramadan fasting disrupts schedules and halal demand strain budgets. It's not conquest by sword, it's by sheer presence. And the projections? If current fertility and migration hold, by 2040, Muslims could be 17% of France, enough to influence local elections in key suburbs, where turnout among immigrants hovers at 50% but packs a punch in tight races. Imagine a mayor of Marseille, elected on promises of more mosques and less pork in school cafeterias. Sound far-fetched? It happened in Roubaix last year, where the Green Left coalition, buoyed by Muslim votes, pushed through prayer rooms in public buildings. Of course, not all see this as benign evolution. Enter the no-go zones. Those urban myths turned media magnets. Coined in the 2000s, they described suburbs like Saint-Denis or Marseille's northern districts, where police hesitate to patrol without backup, and Sharia patrols allegedly enforce dress codes. Fact or fiction? A 2023 Senate report confirmed 150 sensitive urban zones with high immigrant density, where delinquency rates are 2.5 times the national average, fueled by poverty and gang violence. Not jihad, but a petulant echo of it. The 2023 Neho riots, sparked by a teens police shooting, saw 1,000 arrests and €1 billion in damage, with arson in Muslim-majority areas signaling not takeover, but frustration boiling over. Fast forward to 2025. Marches anti-racism marches turned violent in Paris, with 3,000 protesters, many young Muslims, clashing with riot police over Islamophobia spikes, leaving dozens injured. Pig heads at mosques in September, a grotesque uptick in hate crimes, up 72% year over year, per government data. A backlash that feeds a cycle. Here's where it gets attentive. Is this chaos a symptom of conquest, or the growing pains of a republic refusing to redefine itself? France's laïcité, strict separation of church and state, clashes with communal Islam, where imams hold sway in ways priests haven't since the Third Republic. A May 2025 government report on the Muslim Brotherhood warned of subtle infiltration, accusing networks of 300 mosques and charities of promoting separatism, influencing 10% of the community to reject French values. The Brotherhood, exiled from Egypt, found fertile ground in France's banlieues, funding youth centers that double as recruitment hubs. Serious? Yes. A 2024 attack in Arras by a radicalized Chechen killed a teacher, echoing Charlie Hebdo's ghosts. With a little wry twist. If integration's a roast, France is serving it raw. Burkini bans on beaches, pork mandates in prisons, policies that alienate more than they assimilate, turning potential citizens into resentful spectators. Yet, peel back the panic and the invasion narrative phrase. Most French Muslims, 80% per IFOP polls, identify as French first, supporting laïcité and voting across the spectrum. On conversions, on the rise, with 100,000 annually, often among intellectuals drawn to Sufism's mysticism over Salafism's rigidity. But the undercurrents worry. In 2025's legislative elections, Muslim voter blocs in Saint-Denis swung 60% to left-wing parties promising housing reforms, not Sharia. Yet far-right voices like Zemmour scream remigration, polling 28% on platforms that support non-assimilated foreigners. Macron's response? A July 2025 immigration law tightening family reunifications by 40%, but enforcement lags, with 200,000 undocumented migrants estimated in Paris alone. The irony? France recognizes Palestine in September, calling for a UN force in Gaza, a nod to its 6 million Muslim citizens, but one that fuels accusations of appeasement, with a subtle smirk. If this is conquest, it's the politest one since the Gauls surrendered to Caesar, over croissants, not catapults. Now, let's confront the cultural front lines, where the real battle brews not in ballots, but in bedrooms and classrooms. France's schools, once bastions of Republican values, now navigate a minefield. In 2024-2025, 700 incidents of Islamist pressure were reported. From girls refusing gym class in hijabs to boys skipping biology over evolution lessons. A September 2025 Education Ministry report highlighted 150 schools in vulnerable zones, where absenteeism spikes during Ramadan and teachers face veiled threats for teaching Voltaire over the hadith. It's not widespread. Most Muslim students thrive, with higher university attendance rates than average. But the optics sting. Imagine a history class in line debating the Crusades, only for a student's phone to buzz with a radical cleric sermon. With a light chuckle, France's motto, liberty, equality, fraternity, now comes an addendum, and don't forget the VPN for Friday prayers. The suburbs amplify this tension. Saint-Denis, with 30% Muslim residents, boasts France's highest poverty rate at 28% and youth unemployment at 25%. A breeding ground for disillusionment. Here, No-go zones aren't total fiction. Police data from 2025 shows 200 neighborhoods where response times doubled due to hostility, often tied to drug networks run by second-generation immigrants. The 2023 riots? A microcosm. Sparked by a traffic stop, they exposed fractures. 80% of arson targets were in immigrant-heavy areas, with cries of justice masking deeper grievances over discrimination. March 2025's protests against far-right gains saw 50,000 marchers, but clashes in Paris left 3 injured, including a rioter waving a Palestinian flag amid shouts of Allahu Akbar. Serious question: when does protest become provocation? And how long before these sparks ignite a broader backlash? Politically, the response is a high-wire act. Macron's 2021 anti-separatism law banned 4 imams and closed 22 radical mosques, but a 2025 audit found 150 still operating under the radar, funded by Qatari cash, 100 million euros annually, per leaked DGSE reports. The May Brotherhood report was a bombshell. It accused the group of entryism, infiltrating unions, NGOs, and even the CFCM French Muslim Council to push soft jihad, influencing 10 to 15% of the community toward parallel norms. Le Pen seized it, campaigning on de-Islamization, halal bans in schools, burqa prohibitions nationwide. Yet, the left counters with accusations of Islamophobia, pointing to a 72% surge in anti-Muslim acts from January to March 2025, vandalized mosques, pig heads at doors, online harassment tripling. In a nation where 72% view Muslims favorably, per 2014 Pew, holding steady, the divide deepens. Urban elites see diversity as destiny. Rural heartlands fear dilution. Teaser. If politics polarizes, what about the mosques themselves, fortresses or flashpoints? France's 2,500 mosques, up from 1,500 in 2010, are ground zero for this tension. Many are state-funded, but a 2025 Interior Ministry probe found 20% preaching separatist sermons, blending Salafism with social justice. In Lille, a Brotherhood-linked center hosted 2024 Gaza solidarity events that veered into anti-Semitic chants, prompting a shutdown. Counterpoint: most imams promote integration, with 60% French trained by 2025, per CFCM data. The hilarious aside: a viral 2025 clip of a Marseille imam debating halal pizza toppings on TikTok. 5 million views, proving faith adapts, even if it means extra cheese on paradise. But adaptation has limits. The veil, symbol of piety or provocation. France's 2004 headscarf ban in schools, 2010 full-face veil prohibition, and 2016 burqa edicts have alienated generations. A 2025 IFOP survey found 55% of young Muslim women feel targeted, boosting radical fringes. In response, underground networks thrive, apps for modest fashion sales, private madrasas skirting oversight. Serious stakes. When 40% of Banlieue youth report discrimination, per 2024 CNCDH report, trust erodes and extremism fills the void. Since 2015's 130 terror deaths, France has seen 300 Islamist plots foiled, 50 in 2024 alone, often homegrown, radicalized online in echo chambers of alienation. Question to ponder: if the invasion is perceived, does perception become prophecy? Looking ahead, the trajectory is murky. Pew's 2050 scenarios hinge on migration. High inflows could push Muslims to 18%, low to 10%. But even the latter reshapes politics. By 2030, Muslim voters could sway 20% of seats in the National Assembly, per demographers, amplifying voices on Palestine or climate justice. France's response? A 2025 immigration reform caps family visas at 10,000 annually, but EU pressures, with 46 million Muslims continent-wide, up 16% since 2020, tie hands. Le Pen's potential 2027 presidency promises mass deportations, but experts doubt feasibility amid labor shortages in aging France. The twist: Macron's Palestine recognition in September 2025, a geopolitical olive branch. One plaudits from Muslim leaders, but scorn from the right, who see it as surrender, with a wry nod. If conquest means compromise, France might just be the first to fold gracefully with wine. So, is Islam conquering France? The evidence suggests not an armed assault, but gradual gravitational pull. Demographics dictating a multicultural mosaic that challenges the monochrome myth of the Republic. Yet, without bold integration, language classes, economic lifts, mutual respect, the fractures widen, risking the very unity Voltaire envisioned. The real exposure? Not invasion, but inertia. A nation sleepwalking toward a future where Vive la France echoes in Arabic accents. Thanks for joining Death of Nations on this tense tour of tomorrow's France. If this left you pondering the sane, shifting sands, hit like and subscribe. Next, we tackle Sweden's silent shift. Comment below, conquest or coexistence. Sources in the description. Until the map redraws, stay vigilant.